this series of Oracle Fusion Payables demonstration. In this video we will see how to enter the advances paid to third parties, using Oracle Fusion Payable. We will discuss the process of creating a prepayment invoice. Advances which we pay to the supplier are entered into the system as a prepayment type of invoice, because in order to make any payment in Oracle, creation of invoice is mandatory. Broadly, the prepayment are of two types. First is permanent prepayments and second is temporary prepayments. Permanent prepayment are the prepayments, which are paid to the supplier, as security deposit or like transaction and are not to be applied against any invoice in near future. Temporary prepayments are normally used for day-to-day business transaction with the supplier, and available for application against any of the standard invoices for that supplier. To let system know whether your prepayment is temporary or permanent, enable or disable Allow Prepayment Application checkbox on the form. Now let's create prepayment invoice, by selecting Invoices from Navigator. Now click on Create tab to create the invoice. This is the invoice entry form, wherein fields marked with star are mandatory to be entered, but as you can see many fields are defaulted from setups so as to save users time. Enter the supplier, and other fields like supplier site and currency will be defaulted from supplier master. Now from the available list of invoice type, select prepayment. With this system will consider it as an advance invoice. Punch in the invoice number as permanent prepayment 1. Here as at the time of making prepayment supplier might not give any invoice so you can use any logical numbering sequence. And enter amount as 1000. Also give a brief description. Specify invoice amount in lines for which you want to create invoice and over here, system will automatically default the account distribution from the setups. Now navigate to show more. Since this is a permanent prepayment which is not eligible for application against any standard invoice, the checkbox Allow Prepayment Application has to be disabled. With this system will automatically remove Apply After Date option. Now you go to Invoice Actions, and validate the invoice. On this invoice is validated and notice the status of the invoice, which is unpaid. On making payment of this invoice, the status of invoice will change from unpaid to permanent prepayment. Now save and close the invoice. Now let's create temporary prepayment invoice and hence it will be eligible for application. Let's enter the same supplier. Then enter invoice number as general advance, 1. Now punch in the invoice amount as say 2000. After that select invoice type, as prepayment, and then enter the desired description. Now enter the invoice amount at line level and again, distribution account, will be defaulted from the setups. Go to show more, and notice Allow Prepayment Application checkbox and Apply After Date. It is same as invoice date, as the default settlement days, are 0 in setups. Here you can override and specify the date that you want for this particular invoice to be available for application. For this invoice let's put the application date as 25th of June 2015, which means this invoice will be available for application on or after 25th of June 2015. Now let's validate the invoice. With this status of the invoice will change to unpaid, and then status will change to available once payment is made. Now let's create one standard invoice so as to check the application of prepayment invoice. Here select the same supplier, as you cannot apply prepayment made to one supplier to other supplier. Now give invoice number as unmatched invoice, 101 and enter amount as 10,000. Here, ensure the type is a standard invoice. Now in line specify the amount as 10,000. And then specify the distribution account combination and click OK. Now click on Save and notice the bell icon shown by the system. Putting the cursor on the icon system will show the prepayments available for application. Now go to Invoice Action and click on Apply/Unapply Prepayments. Now system will show number of invoices which are available for application. Here system will not show the prepayment invoice which we created earlier as the settlement date has not yet come. Only the invoice which is available for settlement will be shown here. Over here select the amount for application, from the available invoice amount. Let's say you apply only 500. Next is check the accounting date. It is the date on which your prepayment advance account will get reversed and your liability will be debited. After specifying amount of application and the accounting date, click on Apply tab on the screen. As a result, system will show how much has been applied in the Applied section screen. Now click on Done and review the standard invoice. You will notice that of the total invoice amount of 10,000, we applied 500 and hence, net due for the invoice is 9,500. Also, if you observe the payment section of standard invoice system is showing the amount as 500 being paid. Now click on Validate Invoice from Invoice Actions to validate the invoice. Let's quickly take overview of this video. In this video you have first glanced through types of prepayments defined in system, then steps required to be performed, creation of prepayment invoice and applying same against any standard invoice. Thank you for watching this video.